Welcome back. Thank you for clicking on my videos again. This week we're on to the Disney films of the 1970s and 1980s, as you can see on the screen. Those films are the Aristocats, or Aristocats, whatever you want to call them, Robin Hood, the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, The Rescuers, The Fox and the Hound, The Black Cauldron, The Great Mouse Detective, Oliver and Company, and, I will say in advance, my favourite, The Little Mermaid. So, without further ado, let's put them into a tier. So, as from other videos, this is going to be split into two because there are 9 films and I tend to talk a lot. So, from the off, to try and speed things up a little bit, let's go straight into the first film, The Aristocats. Or maybe if you prefer to say The Aristocats, but whatever. The film with the cats. Anyway, I really love this film. I've loved it since I was a child. There are some extremely memorable moments, but we will, as always, start off with the cons of the film. Now, one of the cons I will always say, one of the characters I'm just not keen on, ooh, a little mouse on the screen, there we go, is, I don't like the geeses. I find the geeses really annoying. Amelia and Abigail, that's it. I just find them kind of pointless to the plot. I find the characters annoying, very overbearing. And then you get Uncle Waldo, who is just drunk. And if anyone ever had to deal with a drunk uncle, it's not fun. Not only is it not fun, it is not worth putting in a kids' film. Just have this absolutely inebriated goose on screen. I can see the comedy, I can see the point of the comedy in it, but we have a lot of comedy characters in this film, and I just don't feel that the geese are really necessary. So that, I would say, is a negative of the film for me. As I said, I absolutely love this film, so I haven't got many negatives, to be honest. Ironically, despite the fact that with Lady and the Tramps, with Lady and the Tramp, I liked the fact that the different dogs had the accents and things like that. That was because they kind of just had the accents. They didn't really have the stereotyping characteristics of the country they were from. For example, the Chihuahua spoke with a Mexican accent, but it wasn't there with a sombrero and maracas, for example. It was just a dog, basically, that just happened to have a Mexican accent because it was a Chihuahua, and their dog breed that is from Mexico. But in this one, the alley cats, I mean, the only real issue is obviously the Chinese one. I'm not one of these overwoke people that finds a problem in everything. I'm really not. There is the whole bit with the piano where he does the in for young fortune cookie, always wrong, and I'm just, I don't know, it didn't sit overly well with me. But again, as a child, it didn't bother me. And considering this film was in an age before this sort of, before the era we're in now, where stereotyping was in a lot of things like that, I suppose back when it came out, it wasn't too much of a big deal. And for that, I'm going to, raise the fact that it is a negative in the film, but it wasn't necessarily a negative for me growing up. It didn't bother me. I was a kid. Anyway, and then the final negative to the film, and it's not even really a negative, really, is Aristocats is really just a cat version of Lady and the Tramp. It's almost like they did Lady and the Tramp, and then some cat people got in and said, oh, why have you only ever done films about dogs? You've done 101 Dalmatians, you've done Lady and the Tramp, why have you not done one about a cat? And then they decided, okay, well, we'll make one about cats, and we'll essentially make it the same as Lady and the Tramp, just the female cat has kittens, and she meets an alley cat, which is basically the same as a tramp dog, isn't it? It's the same as a stray dog. It's essentially a stray cat. And he has his band of other alley cats, just like Tramp has his stray dogs that keep ending up in the pound. It's kind of the same thing. Oh yeah, watch the live action of Lady and the Tramp again last night, and honestly, it's worth watching. It's so good. So yeah, if you get a chance, watch Lady and the Tramp live action. Interesting to note if they're going to do an Aristocats live action. Be interesting to see how they would do that. So I'd be up for that. They've done it with Lady and the Tramp. They've done it with 101 Dalmatians. So, let's give it a go with the cats. So I'd like to see that. Going on to the pros of the film, as I said, I absolutely love this film, and there are some standout characters in it. For a start, kittens. All 3 of the kittens are fantastic. They've all got these great little individual personalities. Toulouse is always wanting to think he's an alley cat, and you all know that person who has come from an extremely privileged background but likes to act like they're from the streets for some unknown reason. that is basically Toulouse. Marie is, as always, you know, a perfect little lady like her mum, but still will not take any, you know, crap from her brothers, basically. And then there's Berlioz, who is the, you know, the more kind of studious academic sibling who, you know, is learning the piano and things like that. And yeah, I just love all three of them to have such unique personalities, not to mention they're all adorable, particularly Marie. And speaking of really good characters that I love, Roquefort the mouse. Again, Sterling Holloway, because I didn't put it on the screen in the previous video. The person who does the voice of Car the Snake and Winnie the Pooh and Roquefort is Sterling Holloway. I knew it was Sterling somebody, but I was supposed to put it on the screen, and I remember seeing the name come up on something and then going, oh my God, I didn't even put it on the bottom of that video. God knows what I was doing when I was editing. But, you know, there's some points when you edit a video where you tend to just do something else and just listen to it. And if there's an obvious bit where it needs editing, then you'll dive in and edit it. I don't edit my videos too much, hence the fact they look a little bit amateur. I just like to make them a little bit more realistic and a little bit less perfected for you. So especially things with tier list, I think more kind of real-time reactions rather than edited reactions are just better. Anyway, I digress, like I always do. Roquefort, great character, bearing in mind he's a mouse, and, you know, mice and cats are not supposed to get on. It just shows the kind of characteristics of the more upper class cats, that they don't chase mice, they actually just befriend the mouse. And ultimately he risks his life at the end of the film with running to the alley cats to get help. He risks his life to help Duchess and the kittens. So we love Roquefort. And another really, really positive of the film for me is the songs. It has some great songs. For example, Everybody Wants to Be a Cat. I remember my daughter, when she was younger, used to absolutely love that bit, and she used to sing it around the house, and she liked to pretend that she was on a piano and dropping through the floors like that bit. And I think all of us, there was one part in all of us when we've watched that film, we wanted to do that. I seem to recall my brother really, really enjoyed that bit in the film as well. I do, obviously, but, you know, I've just said that. But yeah, Everybody Wants to Be a Cat is a great song. So upbeat, so fun. And I think majority of people that have seen the film will love that song in it. And then also Thomas O'Malley's song. I always used to, I think my dad started doing it. Whereas every time we hear the words Rwanda and Uganda, for some reason we add Thomas O'Malley onto the end of it. So we go, Rwanda and Uganda, Thomas O'Malley. You're going to be doing that every time you hear it now. Every time you hear the words Rwanda and Uganda. Maybe that was because they're in the news a lot when I was a kid, but my dad does things like that, like I do, puts random words into songs that already exist. So that's one of the reasons I think I like the song so much, is because I always used to find that so funny growing up, and my dad used to do that. So I do every time I hear the country names again now, even if it's just one of them. So yeah, the song Thomas O'Malley, again, so fun, swinging, you can just sing along to it. Yep, just absolutely great. So all in all, where am I going to put the Aristocats on this tier list? I love it. It is one of my favourite Disney films. I will watch it over and over again. Would I say it's S tier though? No, I don't think it's S tier. And from that, my reasons for S tier, it's not quite that level of wow, that X factor I would get from films that I watched growing up that I would think are so phenomenal. I wanted to show them to my husband. And obviously I have shown them all to my husband now, but there are some in particular, like Lady and the Tramp, like Cinderella, like Snow White, that I loved so much. I was so excited to show my husband. So that is why it's going in at the A tier. So second one on here is Robin Hood. I will constantly say that this is the single most underrated Disney film. This film is amazing. It is telling a story from history, which is great. I don't know how accurate, probably not that accurate at all, but, you know, it's telling the whole thing of how King Richard went off to fight the Crusades, and that Prince John took over, and I'm not sure where the similarities lie from there, but, you know, it's a little bit of English history, which is fun. The fact that they're all replaced by animals is also great, and such a Disney thing to do, to replace them with animals. I absolutely love this film, and this was one of those, I guess this is going to go from this sentence, this was one I was very excited to show my husband, and thankfully he did really like. So the negatives, I would say, from the start in Robin Hood, I would say there's really not many. I really struggled to find some negatives with this film. because to me, it's so brilliant. Just a little weird thing, not even a negative. Why does a rabbit think a fox is, and I quote, so handsome? It seems very strange that, I mean, maybe the animals are supposed to represent different races, and in which case, obviously, that'd be absolutely fine. But they're different species. And it's not like I look at another animal and think, oh my God, he's so handsome. Don't get me wrong, I say it about my dog, but not in that kind of, not in the way I would say about when I was a kid, you know, or a teenager, like a boy band member or something. Is not handsome in the same way. That's like the way a mum or a, you know, or a grandparent or something, or even a dad, grandparent says about their child, you know. But I've forgotten her name, but the little rabbit girl says about Skippy's sister. I, for the life of me, have forgotten her name, and I don't think it's ever going to come to me either. Yeah, no, I really can't think of it. But yeah, she says about, oh, he's so handsome, just like he is in his reward posters, and it's like, what? Why are you finding a rabbit? You know, as a rabbit, why are you finding a fox attractive? Not to mention, in the real world, that fox would have killed you. So I don't know. That's a bit of a weird part of the film. It's only a really, really small bit. I told you I really struggled to find bad points of this film because it's so good. The only other negative I would say about this film is the songs. I don't really enjoy that much. I think they haven't got the same fun modernness to them like a lot of the Disney films do, especially when you've just had the Aristocats, which is so upbeat and so much fun. And, you know, some of the songs in Robin Hood are fun and upbeat, and thankfully there's not too many songs in the film. Whistle Stop is obviously a classic song that everybody gets in their head from time to time. That one. Yeah, I found out it's called Whistle Stop, and I found that out from doing a pub quiz once. So yeah, filled in a slight gap in my Disney knowledge there. But other than that, I can't think of any negatives with the film other than those things. So going into the positives, I think the two main protagonists, the male and female protagonists, are really good protagonists. Robin Hood is obviously brave, and he's funny, and he's loyal, and he's exactly what you want from a male lead in a Disney film. And from that argument, so is Maid Marian. Okay, so she is essentially waiting for her true love to come and marry her and stuff like that, but ultimately, when she needs to, she fights for what she wants. She physically gets into actual physical fights with some of the characters in the fight scenes. So for that, I think, you know, she is a strong lead female protagonist. Other good characters that I like, Lady Cluck, Maid Marian's maid in waiting, lady in waiting, I think it is brilliant. She's so supportive. She's such a good friend to, I was going to say lady then, not lady, Maid Marian. The bit where she goes to sort of attack all the guys when they have the big brawl after the archery tournament, when it's obviously revealed that the stork is actually Robin Hood. There's that brilliant bit where the guy yells, "Seize the," I think it's Robin Hood, not Robin Hood. Prince John goes, "Seize the fat one," and then she just goes through like she's sort of on a gauntlet on a sort of rugby or American football pitch, and sort of runs through and dives and bobs out of the way, and then she jumps on and whacks a few of them on the head and stuff like that. And yeah, there was long live the king, obviously, because she supports Richard over John, and risks herself getting shot. So Lady Cluck's brilliant. There's also another bit where a badminton shuttlecock goes down her top and she can't find it because it's made of feathers, obviously, and she is also made of feathers. So, and she has, you know, falls down her rather ample bosom. So that's really good. Another character, one of my favourite characters in any Disney film, and I challenge anyone to, who is actually technically one of the villains, it is Sir Hiss. How can you dislike a snake that can fold its arms? He does the bit where he goes, "Snakes don't walk, they slither." So there. But it's his tail going round as the arms. Amazing. I remember seeing somebody post it on Facebook, you know, how can you... Disney animation is so fantastic, the fact they managed to make a snake fold his arms. And I was like, yes, I'm here for it. I even sent the post to my husband, he's not on Facebook, but I think I screenshot it and sent it to him because he totally agreed. So Sir Hiss, there's the bit where he goes, what is it he says that I love so much? When Little John pretends to be, I am Sir Reginald, Duke of Chutney. I was going to have to say it to remember what it was. And he says he sits on the snake on Sir Hiss accidentally. And he goes, "Oh, excuse me, Buster." And he goes, "Buster, you, sir, have taken my seat." Absolutely brilliant. I don't know why I love that line so much, but I use it so frequently. If I come back and someone's taken my seat in the pub or something like that, I will say, "Buster, you, sir, have taken my seat." So, and I love it when the person I've said it to actually gets what I'm saying and why. But yeah, Sir Hiss is one of the greatest characters in a Disney film, and this is one of the reasons why I think Robin Hood is so harshly, sorry, the dog's just come back in from a walk, harshly underrated. And for that, I am putting him proudly in the S tier, which is exactly where he should be on every tier list to do with Disney. So, Robin Hood into the S tier. We start this group of decades well. And this next film is where it kind of starts to drop a little bit. And then you get other films, particularly this one, The Black Cauldron. But, you know, that's going to be the starting one for the next video, because I think it's a good one to start with. And there's 9 films, and I think doing 5 on this video and 4 in the next is a good idea. So, the next film, however, is The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Did this film need to be made? Or could it have just been a TV series? Like it went on to be, I think. No, it did not need to be made. This did not need to be made as a film. Winnie the Pooh is a classic series of books of literature by A.A. Milne, and we love that. However, do you make a load of them into a film? I personally am not really there for. If you are, that's fine. I know Winnie the Pooh has a huge franchise, and what's the word I'm looking for? Franchise is a huge franchise with a huge fan following, and I totally understand. I totally understand why people love the characters. However, I just don't think this needed to be made into a film. However, it was, and let's give it a little bit of a review. So, cons of the film. Ultimately, as I just said, it didn't need to be made into a film. However, a few cons of the film. Winnie the Pooh is supposed to be the hero. So why did he blatantly just use Rabbit to go and eat all his honey if he is supposed to be the good guy? Because he is an addict. And this is the whole thing with Winnie the Pooh, is that everyone seems to have this theory that it's based on different negative personality traits or mental health disorders. And obviously the Winnie the Poohs is supposed to represent addiction and gluttony, or addiction to gluttony, you know, maybe addiction to food or obesity, just addiction in general, I think. Which in itself is just, I don't think, necessary to be portrayed in a series of kids' books and ultimately a kids' film. Winnie the Pooh, so The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, I feel was one that was created for smaller children, for younger children, whereas like Robin Hood and the Aristocats would have been for older children and young teens, I would say, and me. But The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, I feel it's one of those shows that you could have as single episodes on like Disney Junior or something like that, alongside, you know, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and Doc McStuffins, that sort of thing. But to have a character that blatantly is supposed to be the lead character, and he's basically uses his friend for something, I just don't think is very good. But however, we will go on to the character of Rabbit in another con. Rabbit is a horrible character. He is just unpleasant. I don't know why they bother with him. I'm assuming his mental health disorder that is being represented is maybe OCD, but I think they're making it seem like people with OCD are extremely unpleasant and only focus on their OCD and have no caring for anybody else other than what they want in their lives, which I think is pretty unfair to people with OCD. I know people with OCD, and you know, it's you know, they're not like that at all. They're actually very caring people. So it's a bit of a nasty stereotype, but generally I feel like Rabbit is one of those kids that would remind the teacher that they forgot to give you homework. You know, they forgot to give out the homework at the end of the lesson, just as you're leaving and you think you got off scot-free. He's that kid. He's annoying, he's unpleasant, and I really don't like him. Yeah, so that's another con for the film. And then finally, on the cons, just to go into another character with another mental illness, Eeyore. I'm sorry, I know people love Eeyore, and I can understand it, but This is for children, and he's quite clearly got depression, and I just don't think children need to be perceiving that perceiving that realism, that level of realism in their lives when they're so young. It's something they'll become very familiar with them when they get older, and I hope they don't have to deal with it when they're younger. I know obviously some kids have to deal with their own parents' depression. Oh, sorry, I just knocked the thing there. To be fair, my kids included have had to deal with me having depression for years, but it's not something that I would want them to. I wouldn't have chosen for them to have seen that. They haven't seen it as bad as like Eeyore. It's not like manic depression or anything like that. It's not like a severe form of depression, but they have seen me at very, very low points in my life. And I hate that. I hate the fact that my children have had to see that. So to see it in a beloved character, in a beloved series of books and TV shows and films, I mean, the thing is, what can you do? You can't change the character when he is already in the books. So, you have to, but that's my negative take on Winnie the Pooh, is some of the characters are just too much. So for children's characters, I'm not saying in life to have these things makes you too much as a person. As I just said, I suffer with mental health stuff myself. I get it. I just don't think children should have to be subjected to knowing about that so early in life. I just think kids should be allowed to be kids and have fun and be happy. And it concerns me when they put things into children's films that allow them to have a bit too much realism, really. So the positives of Winnie the Pooh, and there are some, as I said, adorable franchise, adorable series of books and everything. I do generally like Winnie the Pooh as a whole. I like I did like the stories. I like the characters, most of them anyway. And I do think it is great for children. So from that perspective, I see that as pro. Pro on some of the characters. Tigger is great. Again, I'm assuming he's supposed to portray ADHD. Now I'm going through them. I'm actually in my head going, oh, yes. I think Tigger is great fun, especially when he's like so the antithesis of Eeyore, who is obviously so down in the dumps and miserable. Tigger is always seeing the positive in everything, is so upbeat, is trying to get everybody else upbeat around him, and obviously comes across as a bit of a misery gutch, which just, it kind of summarises how it is being an adult, being a more positive adult. As I've said, I do suffer with depression, but generally I would consider myself a very positive person. And I think especially my work colleagues would see me as a positive person, and my friends would too. Hopefully my family. But still, and the fact that everybody seems to find his positivity so annoying, I think does kind of summarise life as an adult. When you're trying to try and be positive and everything, you then are surrounded by news stories and things like that just bring you down. As like constantly we're trying to be brought down. But, that's an entirely different topic that I don't necessarily want to go into too much. But that's how I feel Tigger is kind of portrayed, as this upbeat, annoying character, which I think is really unfair. Because, it's nice to be positive and be happy and try and encourage those around you to be positive and happy. So I like Tigger, I'm just going to say it. I would also like to give a shout out to Piglet. I think Piglet's adorable. He clearly suffers from anxiety, and that's his mental health thing. He suffers from a general anxiety disorder, which I think a lot of us do. But it's very well portrayed. He's very nervous about doing things, but he still goes along with things. He's still a very loyal friend. He's still very sweet. And that is why I love Piglet. So with all those things in mind, where am I going to put Winnie the Pooh on a tier list? Obviously, I don't think he should be an S or A. Personally, I don't think it should be in B, but it's not as bad as D or E, so it is going in at the C tier. So going on to our next film, The Rescuers. I feel this is where the golden age ended. Technically, it ended with Winnie the Pooh, but I feel it had officially ended by the time we had got to The Rescuers, and we get into a slew of really rather meh films. I'm keeping Little Mermaid out of that because it's amazing. The cons of The Rescuers. I think the storyline is generally meh. I feel it isn't the most exciting story. What they're doing in the story isn't much different to what they've done in other Disney stories and Disney films, just not as strong as they've done it in some of the other films. They always have the same premise. Somebody needs to be rescued and they go and rescue them, and to make an entire film based on that is just like, okay, We're going to have the vague story, but we're going to make it the full frontline story of the book, of the film. The actual, cons of the film. As much as I kind of love him, I feel Bernard is a bit of a buzzkill, if I'm honest. We will give a plus to the fact he's voiced by Bob Newhart, who was, sadly, I was so sad when he died recently, who was absolutely amazing. Loved everything he did, Bob Newhart, particularly the character he played in The Big Bang Theory of Professor Proton, and like him as Papa Elf in Elf, obviously. And just any character, I think, that Bob Newhart's played has been amazing. And he does bring the best he can to the character of Bernard. I just feel that he's just not a strong enough character, Bernard. Another negative to the film is the antagonist, Madame Medusa. I say obviously positives in other reviews about some of the villains, because some of the villains are fantastic. They have great backstories, you relate to them. They are just straight up truly evil sometimes, but they have really strong characters to them, even though they are bad characters. Madame Medusa doesn't have that. She kidnaps a orphaned child, which, has the kid not been through enough? She's already been orphaned. But kidnaps an orphaned child just to get her to be small enough to go down in a hole to grab a diamond. And then when she's down there and the water starts coming in, I think she just leaves her there to die. I mean, is that worse than some guy who turns kids into donkeys? Yeah, or it's at least equal to it, to just leave a kid down there that has already been orphaned to just die in a hole after getting her to get a diamond. Also, madam, you are skinny as hell. Why can you not get down there yourself? Oh yeah, you have an abnormally large arse, but the rest of you're pretty skinny. So I just feel like she could fit down, she could have just opened up the hole a bit more and gone down herself, but yeah, just an awful villain, no redeeming qualities, and yeah, she is a negative of the film for me. Positives for the rescuers. Contrary to Bernard, I actually really like Bianca. I think she's strong, but yet she's still so feminine and so sweet, but yet so determined and brave, and she's so chilled in everything she does. And I just think she just is the epitome of the feminine, as in the energy of the feminine, and I love that. I think Bianca's a great character, and it's just a shame they've put such a great character in such an otherwise poor film, in my opinion. Just quick little shout out as well. I love is it Ermandrude, the dragonfly? Love Ermandrude. Ermandrude is adorable. So yeah, from that, where am I going to put rescuers on here? Sorry guys, it's going into D. I just don't like it. Which leads me on to The Fox and the Hound. I don't think the storyline is overly strong. I think it's really quite basic for a storyline. I also feel that it was another one like with Bambi, with the whole hunting and, the way humans treat animals. It's another one where they had quite an obvious message running through it, which is obviously a racism one. It's the concept of you can be raised knowing each other, as kids, and be absolutely fine with each other, and then basically adults and those around you create these prejudices. Obviously it's a fox cub and a puppy, and the puppy's a bloodhound, so he's going to grow up to be a hunting dog, and the fox is going to be the hunted. I see what they tried to do, and I do respect that, but I just feel it was a bit of a misnarrative. I just don't think the storyline was strong enough to carry it. And another one, just like Bambi, where it is just quite if you saw anything in the background, then that was my husband. Another one like Bambi, where it's just a bleak storyline for the hell of it. I just feel they could have had, I don't know, I would say more positivity, but I'm not really sure how they could get more positivity in it. The fact that, Todd's, the lovely little old lady that looks after Todd, obviously loses him because he has to go back into the wild at the end of the film. I just think it was a bleak film for the sake of trying to create a message that wasn't possibly received. And that's my feelings on The Fox and the Hound. But finally, I will, say a positive of the film. Cute puppy and fox cub. That's kind of it. That's all I have. And I know it sounds really abrupt at the end of the film, not film, well, at the end of the video, but I'm just not that keen on the film. However, what I will say is I don't think it is awful. It's not as bad. I mean, it's entertaining enough. It's not as bad as the Three Caballeros. And so for that, I will put it in as D. It's not still also not as bad as a film we've got coming up in the next video. But in the meantime, that's where we are in part 1 of this. So stay tuned. I'll put the next part up in a couple of days. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you can, if you liked it enough. Do you agree with what I've said in this video, basically, where I've placed these films? I know I've been pretty harsh, particularly on sort of the Fox and the Hound and the Rescuers, but the standard that Disney had in its golden age for them just to bring out those films that just lacked the excitement and the magic of Disney, I think is just pretty rubbish of Disney, really. And that's my feelings on, you know, a lot of this, the sort of late 70s, early 80s, to, well, most of the 80s actually, until The Little Mermaid. But, spoiler alert. But still, let me know what you think. Where would you put these films in the tier list? Please make sure to check out my other videos with my other tier lists. They are on the channel in the playlist marked tier lists. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye!